The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great. Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, we welcome you in. Happy Wednesday, Off the Bench. And we have a special guest, or as we should just call him, he's part of the show. He's one of the hosts. We got Elliot back.
No,
He's lost that. He's lost that. He's a guest.
I lose title of host.
You're a guest.
Okay, I'll be guest. I'm
You
guest.
are our Reds guy.
I'm the guest of today's Off the Bench on this beautiful Wednesday. It's good to be here. I won't be here for the whole show, but I'll be able to be here for some of it.
That's what guests do.
And that's what guests do. That's who guests are. So I am a part-time contributor to Chatterbox Sports and Off the Bench. So
It
I'm
doesn't
glad
mean
to be
I
here.
love you any less.
Yeah, I love everybody in here very equally. So I'm happy to be back, and it's a beautiful day. It's a glorious day. It's been a beautiful week, honestly, all week. So I'm happy to be here and talk about the Reds. I haven't been able to rant about the Reds in nearly a week, and it's been driving me crazy. So I'm ready to go.
Well, are you mad that TJ Friedl made that catch? Because I feel like, that brings joy to us. They won. It brought a smile to my face. It probably brought a smile to yours, but I feel like it throws you off a little bit. Like, is that like the first highlight play of the entire season? Like, I don't think there's been one memorable play up until that one last night. It kind of throws us off our game a little bit. We don't know how to react today.
It was really exciting. I mean, that was probably the most energetic moment. It felt like TJ Friedl, by the way, carrying this team on his back.
Holy cow.
And it felt like the first time this season where we saw a spark. The very first time this season. We've had good games. You beat the Orioles. You beat them like 35-0. And it's like, all right, we're going to have an okay season. This team can fight a little bit. There's still no, moment. We've been waiting for one moment to look forward to and hopefully use as momentum. Last night was the very first time this season where we got that. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the Reds. I don't know if they're going to win today. But last night for this 10-hour stretch, it's a good 10-hour stretch. Probably the best 10-hour stretch you're going to see as a Reds fan this season.
I said something this morning, and I realized it's more of a reflection on how sad we are as an organization and a fan base. But I was at the game last night, and I think that was a top 5 or so Reds moment for me to see live. I mean, that was, game 65 in a season where we're probably not going to make the playoffs, and everyone's been underperforming, and it's been incredibly underwhelming and frustrating. But TJ Friedl robbed that home run in the last out of Game 2 against the Brewers on a Tuesday night, and that was really, really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
On Tuesday, we got to make it even better.
That's
right. That's right.
How many 3-2-1 Tuesday beverages and hot dogs did you consume yesterday?
I got 4 hot dogs, 8 beers. So
that's pretty good.
Some solid numbers yesterday.
9 innings?
No, well, if you're going to do the 999, you got to go in. I wonder if my good friend Game Day is in the chat today at the Chatterbox night last year. We attempted the 999. We didn't quite get there because of the lines, but I have done it before. It's something you have to go in with that mindset.
Have you succeeded?
Oh, yeah, many times. We used to do it at school and watch it on TV and grill the hot dogs.
Love that.
It's just way cheaper.
I love that.
Jacob, how did you get with how fast these games go? How did you get 8 beers? There was a lot of people at the game last night. How did you?
There was a lot of people. I saw that on TV.
Yeah, it's only 4 trips to the concessions. It's 2 at a time.
Yeah. I know, but these games go by 2 hours, 20 minutes, and probably each trip to the concession is about 10, 15 minutes. So that's impressive.
You got to go when the Reds are hitting.
Yes.
You know you're not going to miss anything.
Correct.
And then you just go back out and you hope you can see Hunter Greene mow some guys down.
Fair enough. And by the way, you say, oh, man, yeah, I had 8 beers last night at the game. Everyone's like, oh, Jacob, just having a great old time. That's how you enjoy a baseball game. Enjoy some brewskis while you're at the game. Kenner says he has 8 beers, and I'm an alcoholic. It's funny, the double standard that we have on this show.
Well, I mean, I'm in the studio today, aren't I?
Yeah, that's right, Kenner. Hey, Kenner, I'm looking at your hat right now. You know it's tilted sideways?
Yeah. Oh, is it sideways? No.
Well,
Howard would not be happy.
We care way too much about how I look. I'm just saying.
I was just letting you know. I was just letting you know.
Curly hair's back. That's why the hat is on the head.
I like that hat.
I love the hat. I love the hat. I'm just saying it was a little sideways.
By the way, we don't have to be too happy about last night because every time the Reds do end up somehow doing something good, something always comes back to haunt us, right?
Every time.
Yeah.
I laughed at one of the tweets from Chatterbox last night, and it said, "Oh man, after coming off, I can't remember word for word, but basically saying, hey, coming off the, short work for Hunter Greene, obviously, taking it easy with them. Well, he got taken out because, he's starting to feel a little strain in that groin again. And now there was quite a few announcements right before the show started. Hunter Greene going to the 15-day IL. There you go. There you see it placed on the 15-day IL right there. Hunter Greene going to be out for quite some time, most likely. Wade Miley coming back after requesting a trade, so that's interesting. A spot opened up for him in the rotation. And then transferring to the 60-day injured list, none other than Mr. Rhett Lauder. So Rhett Lauder to the 60-day IL. Of course, Wade Miley now signed and called back up by the Cincinnati Reds, and Hunter Greene to the 15-day IL. And something tells me that it may not only be 15 days. It might be a little longer.
Yeah, I think we got lucky last time with Hunter Greene obviously coming out during a commercial break of the game in Atlanta. It was pretty hard stopping for a lot of Reds fans. Didn't really know what happened and then seemed to dodge a bullet there. Him only missing 2 starts, one of which we did end up winning with a bullpen game. So we even talked about it on the show that we seemed to handle that as well as we possibly could have that first stint. Now, another 15-day IL with the same groin injury. That's about as bad as it can be for a lower body injury, in my opinion. This is the alarms going off. This is a guy that has really struggled to get through seasons, even as dominant as he's been and as much as we believe in him to be this team's ace. He's struggled to get through complete seasons, and now we've seen 2 significant IL stints. This one, again, he'll miss at least 2 starts, maybe 3, and if not more than that, if the 15-day isn't the full story. So, yeah, it's frightening. Pearl and I were talking before the show. I said before the game last night, I was watching MLB Network, and they were showing the Cy Young candidates, and Hunter's still, squarely in the middle of that. But when they put all those pitchers up, the top 5 pitchers in the National League, he was down about 20 to 25 innings below most of those other guys, and it's just because of the injuries that he's missed so far. And even though he's been so great when he has been out there, another stint like this probably does knock him off that list unless he's able to, really power through the rest of the year and maybe get some help elsewhere. And that's really frustrating because what was this, a couple weeks ago? I know they won last night, but a couple weeks ago we said, one of the main things we're rooting for the Reds this season are individual awards and accomplishments. And if Hunter Greene's on the IL missing a couple starts here and there, he's not going to be able to reach those strikeout milestones, be able to reach those innings milestones, be able to compete for the Cy Young. And that's something we all want to see for a guy that's, a face of this organization. And it's just frustrating that we seem to continue to see him, hampered by these injuries. And
it's not. And the worst part is it's not just him. It's everybody.
Right,
It's everybody in the organization, outside of Ellie De La Cruz. Knock on wood. But it's I've never understood it. I don't understand how they can get so hurt as a team, as a whole. And it continues year after year. I know there are injuries in baseball. I know there are injuries in 162 games. But it seems with the Reds, it's like these happen so frequently, and there's really no answer for them. And that's the big issue here. So am I concerned about Hunter Greene? Yeah, I'm concerned about Hunter Greene. I'm concerned about pretty much everybody at this moment. And it's devastating news. It's devastating news because we all knew at some point, whether or not it was injury related or not, the starting pitching couldn't continue this trend with as poor as the offense has been. And water is going to find its level eventually. And I think for the starting pitching staff, though it hasn't found it yet, Andrew Abbott has been lights out. But I fear that once we get into August or July, we're going to start looking at this pitching staff and we're going to say, who are these guys? This isn't what we had 2.5, 3 months ago. And is the offense better? Probably not. So that's those are my big fears and concerns with the Reds. And I don't know if they're ever going to be able to fix that. I don't know how you fix injuries other than just say, all right, be better. I mean, just don't get hurt ever. There's nothing you can do or say to make that problem go away. So I don't know. I'm very concerned, and certainly Wade Miley, who, by the way, Wade Miley getting called to the big league roster. I don't know. I'm not Nick Kirby or Craig or Trace or anybody who knows the minor leagues better. Wade Miley has an 8.84 ERA in 7 games. in 19 innings. He is basically a 2-whip, which is hard to do. He has an 8.84 ERA. I don't know how he only has a 1-2 record. That certainly would warrant like a 1-9 record. But he has an 8.8 ERA. You're telling me there's not anybody better?
Well, I'm just glad.
An 8.8 ERA.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday, and I'm just glad Nick Kroll is not worried about rushing Chase Burns up to AAA. I'm really, really glad that we're going to take our time with Chase Burns and watch Wade Miley pitch for the Major League Club.
Yeah, I mean,
to be fair, this might change that. Like, I would have been more upset.
Correct.
Like, if that article came out, like if Hunter Greene gets hurt last night and then that article comes out and there's still no urgency to maybe,
Yes.
But yes, the door has been opened where maybe all of a sudden Chattanooga's not so enjoyable for him and Nick Kroll anymore. We'll see.
Look, Kenner, let me take my jabs when I can get them. If they call up Chase Burns tomorrow, I wouldn't have a chance to do that tomorrow. So I'm going to do it today. Come on.
we'll see. I mean, I don't think this is – we're going to take it one day at a time. We're going to take it one day at a time. They have a chance, the Reds do, have a chance to win a series. First time against the Brewers, they would win in their last 12 or last. I think they're 0-11 in their last 11 series versus the Brewers. They've also not won a series when losing the first game of the series in their last 38 or whatever that is. So this is a pretty massive game today. It's a rubber match during the day, during the afternoon, against a team you don't win against. If there was ever a moment, if there was ever a time to use something, last night's robbery to end that game has to be used today. It has to be. Because if they lose today, I'm going to be honest. It's already difficult to watch the team, respectfully. It's at this point, it just goes away. Because every piece of momentum that you could possibly have has been squandered, and you can't do it. Last night was the most energy I've ever seen. It was awesome.
A lot of people there on a Tuesday.
A lot of people there on a Tuesday. The collective groan from the crowd when that ball was hit, and then the immediate excitement when we all know that TJ caught it. You have to use that momentum. You just have to. And if you're not going to do it today, they are not going to do it at all this season.
Yeah.
Right.
Francona even seemed he was joyful. He was laughing. He did a good press conference. So I'm like, hey, this is lifting all their spirits. What more can you ask for?
I have missed the last 2 days. I've missed your guys' takes on Francona. What has that been?
Oh,
I mean, I've been pretty consistent. Yeah, it's not been good.
Yeah, I mean, that's our boy. That's our boy, and he hates it here, and he hates everybody.
I mean, his demeanor's just shifted. Like the last 2 weeks, because when the season started, he was upbeat. He was backing his guys after every loss.
He realized the team stinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now it just the wind's out of the sails. He hates it.
I'm again. We've all said these takes a billion times in the show. This isn't Terry Francona's fault. Anybody who's blaming Terry Francona kind of silly. Are some of the decisions mind-boggling? Yeah, of course. I went to that game. What was it, Monday, and watched Garrett Hampson take the final up out of that game. And I agreed with you guys. I think you guys were on the camp that you didn't want Matt McClain to pinch hit. Right? Is that what I saw?
Well, if he was on the roster, I wanted him to pinch hit.
Okay, I
don't think he should be on the roster.
Oh, that's okay. That's the point that I had. That's the point that I had. So
if he's going to be in the dugout, then why aren't you using him?
Yeah.
What's the point?
But my rationale here is there's really nobody on the roster that's good enough to help them offensively. So you just got to keep mixing things up and hope something works. Like I said, there's been about 2 consistent players on the Reds this season. One is TJ Friedl and the other is Elly De La Cruz. It's just about it. Jose Trevino, since losing his at-bats, hasn't been very good. Tyler Stevenson's been okay since coming up, pretty good.
And I know we kind of did the song and dance with Stevenson at the beginning of the year, but I think we should extend some of the same to Trevino here. I understand he wasn't a 300 hitter at any point in his entire career, but I've seen a lot of people say, oh, well, he's returning to form after losing his at-bats. When you lose your at-bats, you lose the groove you were in. When he was the everyday catcher, he was playing great, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to him to say that wouldn't be the case if he was still the everyday catcher. Yeah. Now, if you throw him back in there, it might not be, because he lost what he had when he moved down to the backup guy. And I love Tyler Stevenson, and I was certainly in the camp that he should be starting when he came back. But Jose Trevino, I'm not taking anything away from him and what he's been able to do this year.
All right, off the bench, Justin Pearl, Jacob, and Elliot with you here. on a Wednesday, and the Reds will be in action 12:40. The first pitch coming up, and for those who listen on radio, 12:10 is when the pregame coverage will begin. Wherever you listen to Reds on radio, just keep that in mind. We'll step away for a few moments. When we come back, the lineup is out. We'll take a look at that. I haven't seen the lineup yet. Jake, you just said it came out, so we'll take a look at the lineup when we come back. More off the bench next.
You'll never guess who's batting second.
Oh boy.
Reds get a big win last night, 4-2 final over Milwaukee. Reds record 30-32, and looking to end their drought in their series drought against Milwaukee, and of course winning a game 3 would be kind of nice as well. And the series tied at a game apiece, looking to feed off that momentum last night. Look, I think I don't want to look at that TJ Friedl catch last night and say, oh man, that was a season-changing catch, but you never know. It very well could be. I mean, the difference between, that catch, he doesn't make that catch. Yes, it's only a tie game, but we know what the Reds do in extra innings. So, there would have been still no doubt, or there would have been a lot of doubt whether the Reds would have been able to pull that out one way or another. But look, at the end of the day, it does come down to, whether the Reds are able to capitalize on this momentum. We've seen, Elliot, you mentioned it earlier, they've had opportunities throughout the season where they've done some good things. What they did against the Orioles, what they did obviously against Cleveland, some of the stuff that they've done. They just haven't been able to capitalize on those opportunities. They have an opportunity here to take a series against Milwaukee and build on that. They need all the momentum they can with their grueling schedule coming up. But they have to get through Milwaukee to wrap up the series here today. 12:40 going to be the first pitch. And the lineup is out. Jacob, go ahead and give us the lineup. What's the lineup look like? Who's batting second?
Batting second, your favorite, Santiago Espinal. Man, thought we avoided that, but Friedl leading off as usual. Ellie De La Cruz still square in the third hole before he goes on family leave after this game today. Tyler Stevenson DHing, batting fourth. Spencer Steer at first base. Connor Joe in left field. Jose Trevino behind the plate. Will Benson in right. And Matt McClain batting ninth, playing second base. Andrew Abbott, maybe the Reds all-star, starting on the mound.
That's right.
So,
definitely.
a good chance.
Andrew Abbott has been incredible.
Who better?
Incredible. I know it's kind of been swept under the rug because he's Andrew Abbott, and I feel like there's a lot of the fan base out here that wants him traded for some weird reason. But I'm a guy who's an Andrew Abbott believer, and as long as he can stay healthy at some point in his career from the beginning to the end, I'm going to be all in on this guy. I mean, he's been lights out. He's been incredible.
Yeah, and the other part about that, too, I forgot who had put it out earlier this morning. I was reading about it, but Andrew Abbott has done this pretty regularly where he gets off to very hot starts early, and then just like most Red starting pitchers, they fade, like a Nick Lodolo issue, and quite a few of those guys have that. I'm not advocating to trade Andrew Abbott, but for those who are advocating for it, I understand, now, while he's pitching well now, like he has in years past, sell him before, of course, the decline starts to happen. But I'm not advocating for that at all. I think that the Reds right now, especially with the uncertainty of the future of Hunter Greene, and there's, lose a depth piece in the system, and obviously, why am I drawing a blank? Rhett Lauder going on that 60-day IL. His season's pretty much done at this point, in my opinion. I don't see a scenario where he's coming back and being effective at this point.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I would save him for next season, make sure he gets a full off-season workout, throwing program, all of that. But at this point, the strength and the depth of the pitching has taken a hit this week. So at this point, no, I would not be looking to move on from anybody, but we need a big performance from Andrew Abbott coming up later today.
100%. And Andrew Abbott has been nothing short of incredible this season. And I think that's kind of been the case, as you guys said, throughout the first couple months of every season. And that's the worry for Andrew Abbott.
Yep.
Hopefully now, he pitched a lot of innings at Virginia in college. And then he came up and he's pitched a lot of innings for the Reds over the last few years. And he's hit that wall about 100 innings at the back half of the year every year. And if he's going to keep being lights out at the beginning of the year, I'll rock with Andrew Abbott for, what do we have, 4 more years of team control?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's really necessarily banging the table to trade him right now, especially because this team doesn't look like that much of a contender this season. But I do think it's something to look at when you have a guy who is really, really good up until the trade deadline most seasons, and you have guys that have much better underlying metrics. I think the question with Reds pitching at this point, I know we have the injuries this year, but there's only 5 spots in a rotation, and there's a lot of guys that we have in those 5 spots. It's like when you rank the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, you usually get around 8 to 10 guys.
Yep.
That's how it feels like the Reds' 2027 rotation is. There's like 7 guys in it, and no one really knows where anyone sits, and maybe you get another Graham Ashcraft beast in the bullpen out of this whole thing, and that's a great way to look at it too. But I keep watching this team and thinking, man, how good can the pitching be? And you still have no bats. And it's just hard to wrap your head around.
I don't want to be too doom and gloom today. They had a big win yesterday. But if you look at the deadline, I mean, you can't possibly not, at least have that thought in your brain that the Reds aren't going to be competitive at the trade deadline. And then they're looking at the roster saying, boy, what could we get here for, guys like Andrew Abbott or whoever else they got down in AAA.
Martinez was listed as a potential.
These are valuable. I mean, these are valuable assets to a team that's competitive. The issue that we all have is that it should be the Reds who are competitive, and it's not. It's not the Reds who are competitive. So it stinks, and to have these conversations of who we're not going to trade at the deadline when we eventually sell. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But again, today is not a gloom and doom show. The Reds won yesterday. It was very exciting. TJ Friedl got the job done. I think I said it at one point, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago. TJ Friedl, what he's meant to this team over the past 3 years, the word I use every show seemingly is consistency. I look for consistency. He couldn't be more consistent if he tried. I mean, he's flat out awesome. And to see what he did last night to give the Reds some sort of spark, it means the world to me. So, that's another player that as this season ends, we're going to be talking about extending or trading or whatever. And it's, I'm excited to see where his career goes. Hopefully it's in Cincinnati because I like him. I know he's aging, but he's really damn good. And if we didn't have TJ Friedl this year, I really don't know. I don't know where this lineup is. I don't know how they're able to compete. I mean, I feel like he's hit safely in like 50 of his last 60 games, and it's been very, very fun to watch. As we look for today, I expect TJ Friedl to be a contributor. I don't know how many contributions we're going to get from the lineup, as Jacob said earlier on. And once the offense comes to the plate, you just go do something else, read a book. But TJ Friedel's been the one guy. It's like, all right, let's see what this guy can do right now. Same with Ellie. Yep. Ellie's still in that same camp, but we'll see. I mean, it's a massive, massive, massive game today.
I don't think it can get much bigger. I think if you can pick when something like that happens, you pick it kind of in this situation. If you're going to turn the tide of this season, you got to do something people don't expect the Reds to do, because people don't expect the Reds to beat the Brewers. People don't expect the Reds to win a rubber match. So if you can take this momentum, win that game, it's going to be huge moving forward for the Reds.
What about our guy Will Benson?
Yeah, he's been incredible, man.
Friedl was working. I don't know if you're watching. They showed a clip of Friedl helping Benson.
Yeah,
with bunts.
the bunts.
I love that.
Nice.
I think Friedl should do a master class with the team
on
bunts.
Oh yeah.
Love it.
I listen, the bunting. I know people I have friends who get so mad when the Reds lay down bunts. Bunts. Oh, wow. If Ellie De La Cruz,
if executed properly,
correct,
amazing.
If Ellie De La Cruz could bunt, he'd be a general.
Unstoppable, yeah.
If he could bunt right-handed, he'd be the best right-handed hitter in the league. Just because of that speed. Will Benson this year, in 68 at-bats, he has 6 home runs, 15 RBIs. He's hitting 250. OBP is still probably not where you want it to be at 300. But as good as you could possibly be while the Reds' offense continues to struggle. So good for Will Benson. I'm happy to see what he's done this year. Hopefully it continues. He's earned it. I think he's playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, as he should. I was one of the people who probably said that I wanted to see Will Benson start down in AAA. I think He was up all year last year and didn't help the team. I wanted to probably have him work out in AAA and see what he can do. He's helping the team right now. I mean, he's actively helping the team, and it makes me increasingly more and more frustrated that he wasn't on the roster while we continued to watch Blake Dunn and Jacob Hurtubise, and now Garrett Hampson and Connor Joe. Like, we need more from Nick Krall. You just need more. I know it's hard to do with the budget constraints. I know it's hard to do in Cincinnati. I know it's hard to do. I get it. I'm not a GM. I don't pretend to be. It's a hard job. But some of the guys we have on this roster, you can't possibly expect to help the team. You can't expect Garrett Hampson, who hasn't hit a home run since, I'm pretty sure, 2 years. I think it's been 2 years since he's hit a home run. You're expecting him to help? How? In what way? You signed Wade Miley, who has a 9 ERA. Keep in mind, there are 9 innings in a baseball game. He's a 9 ERA. That's a run per inning. Like, you can't possibly expect some of these moves to help the team. And I know it all comes down to the core and what you think of the core and yada, yada, yada. But you need more guys like Will Benson. I mean, you need guys that are up, they contributed, they proved that they can contribute, and you roll with the punches. Rhys Hines not being on this roster is a joke. I mean, it's a joke. I don't care if he hits a $122. He hits home runs. Matt McClain's up here. He hits a $122, and he doesn't do anything, respectfully. So that's where I am right now as a whole with this Reds roster. I need more from Nick Krall. I'm happy that Will Benson's contributing. I'm happy that the guys that we have are contributing. But as the injuries continue to pile up here, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the plan. I don't know what the direction Nick Krall has for us is. You know, I'm going down the lineup right now. I don't know how close Noelvi Marte is. I just saw Jamier Candelario yesterday. He got his first at-bats during, you know, the spring or whatever, the Arizona Complex League thing.
Your guy CES?
CES. I mean, we've got guys that are going to be able to contribute hopefully here soon. But boy, I mean, the answers that he's had for them being missing, they've been. I mean, I don't want to say horrible, but they've been horrible. Every answer he's had to a problem this season has been a joke.
It's just if you continuously it's uncanny because it's like the Reds have a radar for when somebody's DFA'd out on any of the other MLB teams.
Yeah.
They're like, he's ours.
That's right. That's right.
It's ridiculous.
That's right. And I you know, if you're a good Major League Baseball team who's had a track record of winning, I'd be behind you on some of those. But I mean, she's right. I mean, if you're going to just pick up other teams' garbage respectfully, then you're not going to really have a shot at anything here. And
garbage
that's
for a reason.
And we'll see where they go. I mean, we'll see what happens today, and we'll see where they go from here. But as for the outlook on the Reds and how much that spark meant last night, I don't think it changes the direction of this season, but it gives the Reds fans, specifically in this room and where Justin is in Dayton, at least some life, just a little bit.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think that catch changes anything, but I do know he doesn't make that catch. That would have really defeated this fan base, no doubt about it. One last thing here. I know we're getting closer and closer to really diving into trade talk more and more, but Kirby brought up a very good point, I think last week on one of the Chatterbox Reds post games about like the Reds need to figure themselves out in regards to go on a run, get hot, and be what we expected them to be, or they just need to be god awful. But this win 2, lose 1, win 2, lose 3, and being just right there in the middle, that's where they were last year. When you just don't know who they are and you don't know what to do, where you're close enough mathematically, it's silly to say we don't have a chance because anyone can get hot at any given time. So then you don't know if you should make a move or not. Or if they just absolutely crap the bed and are horrible, then it just makes it easy. You know who you are. You can move on from some veterans. You can start to reshape some things. But it's either you have to be really, really good or really, really bad. But this in-between stuff is also probably very frustrating for the front office. I don't think it's doing them any favors either.
No, and we saw a quote from April that was published yesterday again that said if attendance is down, the team's going to have less money to work with. And yeah, it's kind of funny that they operate within 2-month windows, right, to try to tell this team whether or not they can compete. I mean, if you start slow, you're basically out of the trade deadline at that point because people aren't going to the stadium. That's insane, but it seems to be where we're at, and I don't know if we can look at the numbers this year, if that's the case, and expect this team to go by. If that's a 1-to-1 correlation, I think we're starting pretty far behind. Unless we start selling out some of these games in the month of June, we're going to be in trouble. So I don't know that anyone should really expect the Reds to go buy a ton, even if they are really good and get hot. I think the thing we're trying to avoid is the losing streak and selling off, because that's just such a hard pill to swallow. Even if, given whatever the record or games back might be at that point, it might be the right move, it would be tough in 2025 to sell off.
You guys are saying it's frustrating. Front off, this is what literally his plan was. Nick Kroll, people forget his direct words were, we're going to avoid peaks and valleys.
I want peaks.
We're going to get rid of the lows, and we're going to get rid of the highs, and we're just going to ride right there in the middle, and we're going to do it forever. Here's the issue. When you're climbing Mount Everest and you stop halfway through, you didn't really climb Mount Everest. You didn't get to the top. You didn't get to experience the joy, the thrill of why you're there in the first place. We're going to avoid peaks and valleys. That's great. You can't possibly hope to win anything at 500. You just can't. I know that's our metric here in Cincinnati because we never win anything. But that's like, I mean, we avoid peaks and valleys. He's done his job. Nick Kroll's accomplished the task, man. He said he wasn't going to get too high and he wasn't going to get too low. We're going to coast. And they have coasted for the better part of 5 years. It needs to be better. It needs to be better. I saw Nick and Trace debating, Nick Kroll and will he get fired before his plan sees through, and that could be the worst thing possible. I don't know how we say that's the worst thing possible. I mean, I'm not going to advocate for Nick Kroll to lose his job. That's not what I'm going to do here. But I am saying, for the same reason David Bell isn't here, why is Nick Kroll here?
I guess I would ask, what's the difference?
No, there is none. They don't do anything. They don't
Let
win
me ask
games.
this. What's the plan? They're saying get rid of him before his plan plays out. What's his? I don't get what the plan is.
I guess you would say a healthy Ellie, McLean, Steer, CES, the core all playing together. Is that the plan coming to fruition?
I assume that's what he's trying to accomplish. Here's the issue: doesn't always work the way you go. So you got to have a plan B and a plan C. His plan B is Garrett Hampson. That's a horrible plan B. That's plan Z. And we sit here and we debate this stuff, and it's like that's what he wants. We go back to what Nick Kroll said before the year a couple years ago. We're trying to fight for the division. Where? You don't fight for the division at 500. You don't. No, I don't think anybody's won this division with less than 90 wins since like 2007. I have to go back and check. You have to win games. You have to win 90 games to win the NL Central. And probably more to make the wild card with how good the teams are this year in the National League. Nick Kroll, I'm out of excuses for the guy. They won last night. That's great. If they lose today, I mean, truthfully, the hope of this team is just not there, man. It's just not there this season. And until something changes drastically with the front office and how they approach this, they're not going to win games. Great pitching's great. I love how stacked our pitching staff is. I love it. And Jacob kind of mentioned it there. We're going to have to get rid of some of them. We're going to have to trade some of them for bats at some point. You can't have 9 guys in a rotation. But pitching isn't the problem. It's not. The bullpen, for the names that we have in our bullpen, I would say most people in Major League Baseball would look at it and say, this is a fine bullpen, it's whatever. And they've been average. They've been a pretty average bullpen, which is their job. That is their job. It's not to be the world's best bullpen. It's to hold the line. It's to be serviceable. And they've done that. The bullpen has done their job. Starting pitching's done their job. There's one very, very glaring weakness on this team, and it's the offense. And the fact that we don't have backup plans to when guys get hurt and when they're not playing together. Would we love to see CES and Matt McLean and Ellie and all these guys come together and play together? Sure. But we haven't seen that in 3 years. Why are you expecting it to change now? You can't. So we'll see what happens today. Today's a big test.
Huge.
It's a big test for the Reds. It's a big test for the guys in that clubhouse. It's a big test for Terry Francona. This is to show me how much fight they have left in them. If they get shut out 1-0 today, you can't possibly rationally expect me to say that this team's any like I saw that take yesterday, Kenner. I saw that this is what the Reds need. This is what's going to turn the Reds around. If they don't show up today in the rubber match against a team where you don't win, in a series where you haven't won in 40 times, if they don't win today, you can't possibly expect this outcome to change this season. And that outcome is they're not going to make the playoffs, and they're probably going to win like 72 games, 73, 74. So that's what I'm looking for today. I'm looking to see the fight. Yesterday from TJ Friedl, when he robbed that home run, I saw fight. I saw him and Will Benson out in the outfield, and I saw them excited. I saw them ready to roll and hopefully use that momentum into today. They just need a little bit of help, man. Just a little bit. And if Nick Krall gives it to him, who knows? He's not going to give it to him this year. But going forward, Nick Krall, we know the problem. We know it. It's the offense. They have to be better. You can't replace everybody. At some point, you do need the guys, in this core to show up, be healthy, and contribute. But there are more things that you can do. There are more plans that you can have than Garrett Hampson, Connor Joe, Blake Dunn, and Jacob Hurtubise. There are more plans than that. And those are the plans that you've given the Reds this year.
We do have some updates from Charlie Goldsmith, just stuff on Wade Miley, update on Austin Hayes, and even another tidbit about Greene that has not been out there yet. But we'll start with the Austin Hayes update. Austin Hayes could start running, and this is Charlie Goldsmith with these updates, by the way. Austin Hayes could start running again late this week. They also don't want to rush it because he has had soft tissue injuries this year, and they don't want to risk that. So there you go. The update on Austin Hayes. Obviously going to start running this week, but they're not going to rush it. Still not a realistic timeline of when we could expect him back, but we know the difference he makes in this lineup.
Yeah, I think there's a very, very short list of players that means more to this Reds team than Austin Hayes. I mean, just what he gives, obviously, number one, but what he takes away and what else replaces him in that outfield spot can't really be overstated either. It's the Garrett Hampsons that Elliott's talking about. It's the Connor Joes out there against pitching matchups he has no business playing against. And Austin Hayes alleviates a lot of that. And we got one of the best players in all of free agency in the outfield, really, behind Teoscar and Juan Soto, if you want to look at the season numbers so far. The Reds got lucky and got one of the best outfield bats, and he just hasn't been able to stay on the field, which is incredibly, incredibly frustrating because you think maybe you go get someone from outside the organization and they can do that, but has not been the case with Austin Hayes. Hopefully he can come back soon. Hopefully Noelvi Marte, who we heard was ahead of schedule earlier this week, can come back soon. Jamer Candelario starting his rehab last night. Yeah. So, I mean, if we get Austin Hayes back and Noelvi Marte back, that can really help this team.
Changes it a little bit. It changes where we are a little bit.
More Charlie Goldsmith with the tidbit on Hunter Greene. Obviously getting the MRI now. Again, it was already announced he's on the 15-day IL. I don't think that's a surprise. I think we all knew he was heading towards the IL. We were just kind of anticipating what the results of the MRI were going to be. We don't know the results of the MRI as of right now, but since it was a repeat injury, according to Charlie Goldsmith, they want to make sure that they figure it out. Francona also mentioned that Greene's lower back is also a little banged up, and they want to see if that's related to the groin injury. So that was that wrinkle I talked about. We knew about the groin injury. That's what put him on the IL weeks ago. Of course, he came back just in time for that Cubs series. Back on the IL again with a groin injury, but also a little bit of a back problem. I don't like hearing that either.
Elliot, and I guess Pearl too, what's the rush to get Hunter Greene back in this rotation?
I just think that, we're not making a big run for anything.
Right.
Correct.
If he's banged up at all,
it's going to do worse if you rush him.
Correct.
Because he's going to risk a worse injury and he'll be out longer. So
am I the
take your
only
time.
one that immediately thought another groin injury is rushing him back from the last one?
Yeah.
I feel like Reds do this a lot, though. They rush
100%.
They rush people back from injuries, and
especially the very few
immediately back
people
on.
they know put butts in seats.
Yes.
Hunter Greene is one of the people that puts butts in seats, and if he's going to miss a bunch of home starts with a groin injury, that might swing him. I certainly think with what we've seen from him so far since returning from the injury in Atlanta, they rushed him back at least to a degree. And maybe he was saying he was healthy and he felt fine, and that's a whole other thing. You got to protect players from themselves, but man, you don't just hurt your groin again 2 starts later if it's not something that's lingering from before.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I lean towards the same camp I was in when we just mentioned Brett Lauder on the 60-day IL with Hunter Greene. What's the rush? What are we willing to risk for 2 or 3 starts this year?
Yeah.
That's the difference for a 2025 season where this team's not good enough.
It's because he's what we got, and
Right.
that's That's sad. That's
Right.
really sad.
Right.
It's he has to be out there to sell tickets. He's got to be
Yeah.
out there for the fans, and unfortunately, sports is a business. So
Yeah.
that's what you're kind of looking at right now for Hunter Greene. Of course, if I'm going to be completely honest, yeah, I mean, if there was a button where I could just shut all my favorite players down right now, I'd do it, because if I'm going to be completely honest, if Santiago Espinal is going to continue to bat too, and if you're going to continue to roll out Garrett Hampson and Connor Joe and try to cover up this team being bad, you're not giving it your all. You are not Nick Kroll, Brad Meter, the front office. They are not giving it their all. So why would I want Hunter Greene to give it his all? Why would I want these guys to just go out there and be all-stars when it's going to amount to nothing? I know they're millionaires. I know they're athletes, and they're living up to their contracts. I get it. But if I'm going to be completely honest, let's just wait. You tell us when you're ready to compete, and we'll get our guys ready to go. That's what we'll do. Hunter Greene and Ellie and all these guys, they'll show up when you put a roster together that can do anything. Anything. And it's just not good enough right now. It's just not good enough. So that's why they rush everybody back. That's why they're going to rush CES back, and they're going to rush Jamier Candelario back. They're going to rush Hunter Greene back, because this is a business. It's a business first. And for a business that's pretty much only job is to win baseball games, they do a pretty bad job at it. So I'm disappointed with how the front office has handled the offensive woes this year. And Hunter Greene and these injuries, I'm not going to blame anybody. I'm not going to blame the medical staff. I'm going to try not to blame too many people in the front office for injuries specifically. But just not having answers for those injuries is my biggest gripe. That's my number one concern. I don't want anybody, if they're hurt at all, just let them be hurt. Let them get healthy. Let them get healthy on the 15-day IL, and they'll come back when they're ready. And if the team's still around 500, great. If it's not, then oh well. I mean, it's a tough season anyway.
Plenty of teams are affected by injuries. Very, very few let it derail their season like the Reds do.
Yeah,
very few.
Yeah, they throw it in. They throw it in when somebody gets hurt, for sure.
I will say this. The reason there's no rush to bring Hunter Greene back is because of all the position groups on this team that they have, that they're getting production from. It is pitching. I think we had this debate last time about, did we even know, and this was no, I'm not wording it like he's irrelevant or not important. Of course he is, but I was like, I don't really feel like we noticed his absence last time outside of the fact. I mean, yes, those were the couple starts that we saw from, why am I drawing a blank? Chase Petty.
Top 100 prospect.
Top 100 prospect. The future is bright in Cincinnati, by the way. I need sunglasses. It's so bright. But no, like it's one of those where there's no need to rush him back, because there are pieces in this rotation. This pitching staff is good enough to be able to navigate through the next month, or maybe month and a half if you have to go that route. I would not want to see him before the All-Star break, again, to be quite honest with you. If you have to rest him all the way into the All-Star break, then fine, to make sure that this back and the groin is completely fine, because at the end of the day, this rotation is good enough to be able to navigate waters for at least a month without him, if that's the case. Because it all comes down to this, whether you have Hunter Greene or not, if this lineup's not producing runs, it doesn't really matter if Hunter Greene's out there or not, and that's not a shot at him, but the bottom line is this team has struggled with them. Yeah, this team struggled with them. So it's just one of those, unless run support is going to start, it doesn't matter what the pitchers, it doesn't matter who the pitchers are that are out there at this point. I just wouldn't rush him back by any means when it comes to this injury. It's a 15-day IL stint. I think it's going to be longer. I think we all do.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
But look at that. 2 minutes to spare. Our guy L. What we got going on today? What we got going on?
Well, so what we have to do is, we've been, as you guys know, I've been doing the golf video thing. So what we're going to do is, when the days that we're not golfing, we have to edit. So that's where I'm going to go right now. We're going to go edit at Trace's house. So, yeah, I will say, golfing is very weird during the day. I texted Jake, I'm like, I feel weird doing this. I mean, I feel really weird. Not at work. I'm just golfing. I'm just golfing right now during hours. But yeah, today's an edit day. Friday's going to be an edit day. So I'm going to try to get in here as much as I can, guys. I apologize that I'm not. So thank you, Pearl, Jacob, Kenner, Reed, everybody who's just taking up the mantle. Thank you very much.
We love it when you're here.
Also,
so whenever you can.
Thank you. Before we go, can I hear the headline sounder real quick? Is that okay? Can I just hear it?
Score updates, breaking news, local and national headlines, whatever's going on in the world of sports, Elliot has you covered.
That's right, I do.
Off the Bench brings you Elliot's headlines.
That's right, we do. I just got one. I'll just do one. I'll just do a silly one. Let's see. Where should I go? Oh, I'll go to the Pirates. The Astros, they shut out the Pirates 3-0 yesterday. They shut out the Pirates 3-0. Paul Skeens, 4-6 on the season. He went 8 innings, striking out 8, and only allowed 1 run. Pirates didn't score. Oh, sorry. Arrgh. Boy, that $600 million contract in LA is going to look good.
Is that your only headline?
Yeah,
We're going to talk about the Rockies?
I should mention the Rockies. You're right. I'll mention the Rockies. Congratulations, after 19 series this year, the Rockies have won one. They've won their first series. It is the longest stretch, I believe, in Major League history
Correct.
to not win a series. They beat the mighty Miami Marlins, a team that beat the Reds. They beat the mighty Miami Marlins on Sandy Alcantara Day. Sandy Alcantara, believe it or not, has a worse ERA than Wade Miley does. I think he's got like a 9 ERA this season. He's starting every game.
He likes living in Miami so much. He's tanking his trades.
Yeah, that's exactly
Did
what it
you
is.
see the attendance for the game? I don't think it was last night's game, but the game before that, there was like 5,000 people.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
To be fair to the wonderful people in Miami, that is an exhilarating series.
Yeah, I mean, imagine. Let me give you 2 options here. Let me give you guys 2 options. You can either go to the beach, or you can go watch the Marlins.
Anything else in
Oh, what
I'll
a
get
silly
burnt.
choice.
I'll get sunburned.
Yeah.
Such a deep laugh.
If the Pirates, could
That
you
was
imagine?
laugh.
Could you imagine if the city of Pittsburgh had a choice between watching the Pirates or going to like a lake or something? The lake or the Pirates? Okay, I'll go watch the Pirates. Waste Paul Skeens. Yeah, that's not what I'm gonna do.
There was a segment on ESPN yesterday. The Pirates will not be trading Paul Skeens. With 5 years of team control.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Those are Elliot's
Man.
headlines.
Those are Elliot's headlines.
Paul Skeens is just praying to get the Luka Doncic treatment, right? Like he wants them to get him the hell out of there. But either way, but Elliot, I know you got to bounce. We'll step away for a few as well. We'll continue on Reds, Bengals, more off the bench next.
Love you all.
Womp womp. Elliot's gone.
Chat's really
By the
happy
way-
about it. Chat's happy about Kinner for the rest of the show. Just don't check.
Oh, I've checked. It doesn't matter. Like, it is what it is. But
Oh, I'm getting it too. They miss Elliot. They miss Elliot. That's bleeding over to the rest of us.
oh well. Oh well. So we were talking about Trey Hendrickson during the break.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the cryptic post on Instagram yesterday. So is he at OTAs? Is he showing up to OTAs, or is he just still
He's
poking the
not.
bear, not showing up? So he's not showing up to OTAs, but still finding a way to make headlines Yeah, that's cool. That's neat. That's neat.
Yeah, it's certainly far from ideal. And both edge rushers, as we seem to talk about every time we talk about one of them, we have to talk about the other one. Shamar Stewart there as well. And he is standing in line with the defensive lineman and specifically not stretching, like making it a point to not move and make himself, as much of a nuisance as possible during this contract holdout while basically every other rookie practices while their contract isn't signed. But in terms of Trey Hendrickson, we usually only hear from him while the team is practicing and he's stealing the media and stealing the spotlight. But he took to Instagram yesterday like a classic NFL diva would and posted this with a scripture caption, Deuteronomy as the caption, and the song there at the top, Bailey Zimmerman, Luke Combs, Backup Plan. And that song has been taken multiple different ways by the Bengals fan base. I've seen people say, okay, he's caving to the Bengals contract. He's going to take a short-term contract offer, and he's gonna play for the Bengals this year. I've seen other people saying, "Oh, this means he's going to hold out, and there's no way he's playing this season. He's going to dig his heels in." So I'm going to choose to be optimistic here and think we get a contract done because I still just call every NFL player's bluff that's ever said they're going to hold out, and I've been wrong once with Le'Veon Bell, and it cost him his entire career. So I don't think there's exactly a long list of success stories for Trey Hendrickson to hold out, especially at age 31, coming off the 2 best seasons of his career. If he was smart, his backup plan would be to take that 2-year, $28 million a year offer because that's some pretty good money.
Like I said, I just have a problem with it. You're not showing up to OTAs. That's part of it. I get it.
Right.
Probably gonna, not participate in camp. I wonder if he'll be a no-show for that. That's the other part too. Like you get fined for not showing up to camp. So will he do what Jamar did last year, where you just show up and don't participate in team drills and activities? But the problem I have with this is, again, you don't want to show up to OTAs. Fine. We know why you're not there.
Right.
But stop with the childish, cryptic tweets. I hate when
that's so
athletes do that.
messy.
It is. It's messy. I like that. It's messy.
It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
That's
something like a high schooler or something would do. Like, what are we doing? You're a professional athlete, and you're posting something like that with a song called Backup Plan? Come on.
I hadn't heard the song. I ran and listened to it right away. It's like, what do we mean?
What he's doing is the equivalent to anyone in their 30s changing their Facebook relationship status to "it's complicated."
Yes.
Like, get over yourself. Get over yourself. Again, this doesn't have to be a beat up on Trey Hendrickson every time. We wouldn't even be talking about it today. The only reason we're talking about it today is because he put it out there. And I don't think he realizes how bad he looks in this. Like, it's very rare where so many people think that the Bengals are in the right for how they're handling this and how the player's handling it wrong. Everyone was on T. Higgins' side. Everyone was on Jamar Chase's side. Everyone was on Burrow's side supporting getting those deals done. I'm not saying nobody's on Trey Hendrickson's side, but there is a lot more people that are looking at Trey, looking at him like, you look kind of silly here, and I don't get it. He's counting on the reputation of the Bengals. He's counting on that, leading the perception train when it comes to which side people are going to take. More times than not, the Bengals deserve to get criticized for how they handle these situations. This is just not one of them. It's just not.
I think the funniest thing to me, you said there not too many people are left on Trey Hendrickson's side, and the people that are left on Trey Hendrickson's side seem to be the ones that are most vocal about how poorly the Bengals handled the Jamar Chase T. Higgins situation. They talk about how, we should always pay the players what they're deserved. They're the players first over the organization guys, and that's all fine. That's all fine. But the argument against Jamar and T was always pay them early to get them at a better price down the road. Waiting a year to pay Jamar Chase cost us about $10 million in the wide receiver market. And how did that affect the cap? Well, it's going to hurt their chances to sign to sign Trey Hendrickson. So everyone wanted us to sign those guys earlier. What'd they do with Trey Hendrickson? They extended him 2 years ago for $16 million, which was a number both sides were comfortable with. And now he just wants more money? Trey Hendrickson is not a free agent. Trey Hendrickson is under contract this year. Those two things are completely different to me. In terms of, if you wanted to extend Jamar and T early, what's the difference that makes? If it's in 2 years, they can just go to the front office and say, hey, I want what the top wide receivers being paid. I don't care that we have a contract done already. I want to match market value. Then what's the point in ever signing someone early? So I give a huge round of applause, and I try to every time we talk about this, to the Bengals front office. Because we kill them on this show and every show a lot. And they deserve it a lot. They've cost this team plenty of wins. They've cost this team plenty of chances at competing. This is not one of them. This is the Bengals front office handling something very, very well. And I hope they don't cave. 2 years, $28 million was the reported offer for Trey Hendrickson. Eat this one up, add one on the end, $28 million a year. That's a $12 million raise this year and $28 million next year. You want 30 plus. You're really going to haggle over an extra year into your mid-30s because you want $2 more million? Play on the 16.5 or take the contract the Bengals are offering and shut up. We're done with this. You've both had your negotiations. You're both not budging. Let's just be done. Either hold out or sign the contract. I'm so done with this whole conversation.
Agreed. And like I said, I don't mind that he's not at OTAs. It's just the childish post. It is what you made a lot. You said something during the break that you hate that we have that you have a diva wide receiver, a defensive end or whatever, and it's like because that's the way he's acting.
Yes.
You want to know something we didn't really mention? I know there was a couple, cryptic social media posts from Ja'Marr Chase throughout. For a guy that had no filter early in his career, I thought last year was the most mature Ja'Marr Chase that we have seen. I thought it was mature the way he handled the holdouts, although I wasn't a fan of it. I thought it was a mature way. Like, people were annoyed that he wasn't talking. I thought that was not refreshing, like, oh, I don't want to hear him talk. But, like, for a guy that just says whatever and a guy that seems unfiltered and a guy that's just kind of goofy and loves to interact with the media and fans, he was just quiet. Did you hear from you had a Burrow going on those little media tours? Ja'Marr was just quiet. He was off to the side. He knew it was all going to get taken care of and all this stuff. And maybe he wasn't sure about T, but he wasn't commenting on that. He wasn't commenting on anything. He was just quiet off to the sideline. Trey is acting more like a diva wide receiver than Ja'Marr did during his negotiation. But that's the thing. That was a negotiation. This is a guy throwing a tantrum because he wants more money than what he agreed to get paid on the second time around.
Right, and I think, most people would immediately jump to Joe Burrow and say, well, that was the easiest contract the Bengals have ever done. I'm sure Joe Burrow never broke a sweat. That contract broke the organizational norms far more than Ja'Marr or T's extension did. So I fully expect that there was some level of concern in Joe Burrow's camp that the Bengals were going to give him a top quarterback offer that matched the guarantees of what everyone else was getting. I really do think that. After the Bengals got that done, I don't think there was even a sliver of doubt in Ja'Marr Chase's mind that he was going to be the highest paid wide receiver whenever he signed that contract in Cincinnati for the long term. Once you extended Joe Burrow, it was no questions asked there. Ja'Marr Chase was staying. So I think that's why he was so quiet. He was comfortable with where he was at. He knew everyone else was, going to be loud and have problems, and Joe Burrow was going to go on the media tour to push for T and Trey. And even on that media tour, Jamar's name was usually just kind of thrown in. It was always T is a need, and we need him on this offense. And Ja'Marr, we need to extend him too, obviously. And everyone's just like, oh, yeah, we know. And he'll get done. And he did. And I think the Ja'Marr conversation that we heard at their post-contract press conference has really told us more about what happened there. It's not like Ja'Marr wasn't talking. Ja'Marr was leading those negotiations, banging the table for T, saying he's not signing without T. And I think that's where most of his energy was focused, was in those rooms behind closed doors, not in front of the media, which is a huge, huge positive for Ja'Marr Chase and his leadership. And as we've progressed into this offseason even further, we've heard even more positives about Ja'Marr Chase and his leadership. Jermaine Burton talked to the media yesterday for the first time since last year, which was an incredibly tough season for him and the Bengals in terms of not getting what you want out of your third-round pick. He said he's so committed to being a better professional this year, and he credits a lot of that to the leadership Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins have given to him throughout this offseason. And to have two guys that you're paying that much money to be the face of your offense, to be the main guys on the outside at a position on a team where you throw the ball 70% of the time, you need wide receivers to be the catalyst of that offense. They're going to take a guy that they see talent in and drag him along with them, and that means a lot to me. They could have easily gotten paid and skipped OTAs and went and trained or been on a boat in Miami with Stephon Diggs or something else along those lines, but they're here, and they're grinding, and they're taking the young guys, and they're trying to make them better, and I think that's a huge, huge thing for the Bengals moving forward.
More from OTAs. Obviously, all the media availability is big, a lot of sound bites, a lot of audio, a lot of just whatever being put out there. T. Higgins spoke with the media yesterday. We don't have the audio for this one, but I came across this earlier. I think it was Florio who put it out, was highlighting a quote from T. Higgins. T. Higgins has a plan this season. It's a big plan.
I knew you'd have this one.
Oh, yeah. He plans on staying healthy. It's a new plan. He's never had this plan before. It's a big league plan. It's a great plan. It's probably the greatest plan in the history of plans. He plans to be healthy this year, as opposed to previous years where he planned injuries and planned to be out for quite some time. I know what he meant. It is but it was a funny line, but look, he does. His health is going to be very important as well. He missed 5 games last year. Did he really?
Yeah.
That's a lot of games. I don't know. I guess it was obviously early in the season, regardless. But that's a lot of games. He misses a lot of games. That was one of the big talking points to kind of justify if the Bengals did not want to obviously give an extension. Sure. They could justify it by saying, hey, we don't mind giving you this money, but we're putting a lot of money in Burrow and Jamar. We have a lot of big contracts, and we have to be sure that if we give out another big contract, you have to be available. And he's just not readily available. Is this a season? How important is this season for him to not just prove that he could play? We know he could play, but stay healthy, because I think that's where this could backfire. The money that they paid him, not a big deal because we know he could produce, but when he's out there. But where this contract for the Bengals and T. Higgins can really backfire and hurt them is if he continues the trend of not being readily available health-wise year in and year out.
Yeah, and this isn't anything new. This is the talking point the entire time that even did chip away at the pretty ironclad argument to re-sign T. Higgins was, you know what you're getting. It's not that it's much of a question mark anymore at this point in his career. You know what you're getting, and it's going to be 12 to 15 games if you're lucky on a 17-game schedule. There's almost no chance that he plays every game. But if he is healthy at the back end of the season, and he is healthy in the playoffs, you know how much he can provide to this team. So I think it was a pretty easy decision for the Bengals. But as you move forward, it's a lot harder to justify a receiver making that much money sitting on the bench. So if injuries are going to continue to be a problem for T. Higgins throughout his career to the point where he's only playing 10 games a year or so, that's going to be a really big struggle. And I think it's going to be something we look back at in a few years for the Bengals and say, hey, maybe we should have seen this coming. Maybe we shouldn't have spent so much money on an injury-riddled wide receiver. I don't know. Hopefully he proves us wrong, but we certainly saw enough of that before the contract that if it happens after the contract and derails this offense, we can't throw our hands up and act like it's a huge surprise. There has to be some level of expectation that he's going to miss games. And I think this kind of circles back to what we talked about with the Reds all this time about guys getting hurt and injuries and things along those lines. I've had wide receiver close to the top of the Bengals list of needs on offense this year, and a lot of people think that's crazy with Jamar and T. Higgins. But what's the plan if they get hurt? I think we're putting a lot of eggs in the Jermaine Burton basket, hoping that works out, and I hope it does. I'm the biggest Jermaine Burton guy on this show, maybe in Cincinnati at this point. I don't know. But Andre Yoshivas has shown time and time again that he's not more than a wide receiver 3 red zone threat. He's just not. So if T. Higgins or Jamar Chase miss significant time, I don't know what this receiving room looks like. And yesterday we were talking about this Bengals roster and comparing it to the rest of the league, and PFF ranked them 18th, which is below average in the NFL. And what were the 2 position groups we said were going to carry them above most of the teams listed ahead of them? Wide receiver and quarterback. Well, if you lose one of those 2 wide receivers, you then might have one of the worst wide receiver rooms in the league when you go down the depth of that room. So I'm very worried about the health in that room if there is, no steps taken by some of these young guys. And those aren't the only young guys that we're banking on steps from. Obviously, 2 guards in the middle, one probably going to be a rookie, Dylan Fairchild from Georgia. Going to need big steps out of them. The interior defensive line, Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson, the rookies last year, going to need big steps out of them. Cam Taylor-Britt showed great leadership yesterday on the field, picked off Joe Burrow, had a great clip afterwards talking about how he always tries to talk to Burrow after big plays to get the juices flowing and have practice be more competitive. And it was yesterday. Joe Burrow, after throwing the interception, hit Jamar Chase on a streak past DJ Turner down the sideline. So we have a lot of guys on this team that are going to have to take big steps, and they look like they're competing early in OTAs. And hopefully everyone can stay healthy, because when we talk about the defensive secondary as well, just like those wide receivers, why was it so bad last year? Now, you could say Dax Hill and DJ Turner and Cam Taylor-Britt are all busts and they're all terrible, and that's an opinion you could have. Dax Hill was playing pretty good football before he tore his ACL in his first year as a starting outside corner. DJ Turner looked awesome before he broke his clavicle against the Giants. And Cam Taylor-Britt was a guy going into last season we thought was going to be one of the best players on this team, if not one of the best corners in the AFC. So I still have faith in some of these young guys taking a big step, but we are relying on them an awful lot this season, and we're going to need our stars to stay healthy. And one of those stars is Trey Hendrickson, and part of that health for him is having him on the field for that defense, because it changes everything about this team if he's not.
Well, yesterday we talked about the Pro Football Focus roster rankings. Bengals committed 18. We were just kind of dissecting some of the teams ahead of them. Are there really 17 teams with better rosters than the Bengals? We know the Bengals roster is top heavy, but we also know like the weaknesses of the Bengals last year. Obviously, statistically, the run game wasn't very strong, but we've talked about, of course, that's more of a situational type thing because the fact that they were trailing in a lot of games and the fact that they passed more than any other team in the National Football League, whether that's because they weren't confident in the run game or because they were having to win in shootout fashion because the defense was so bad. Run game wasn't a strong point for the Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, the defense was definitely not a strong point for the Cincinnati Bengals last year. And then special teams. We never talk special teams. We never give it any kind of credit whatsoever, but we give it all the blame in the world when they don't do their job. And we saw that last year, of course, with Evan McPherson. Jake, if you look at the run game, the defense, special teams, which one of those has to take the biggest step? It can only be one. Which one of those has to take the biggest step this upcoming season for the Bengals to win more than 9 games, get to the playoffs, and be a legit Super Bowl contender?
The reason why I'm going to say special teams is because if special teams is better last year, they're in the playoffs. So I think we could have everything stay the same. Now, I think for this team to take a real step and be much, much better this year, it is obviously the defense. If the defense can be league average, maybe we don't even need the special teams to be that much better. Evan McPherson can still be one of the worst kickers in football, and maybe this team can go to the playoffs. So I certainly hope the defense takes a big step, but I think the most important thing is the special teams. We extended Evan McPherson for a reason. A lot of people think he's one of the big reasons why we went to the Super Bowl that year. Some people, including our boss, Trace Fowler, think he's a bigger reason than Joe Burrow why this team went to the Super Bowl in 2021. So if he can get back to that form or anything close to it, being one of the best kickers in football next year, then that would be absolutely huge for the Bengals. But I do think the biggest room for improvement is on that defensive side of the football. So many of those young guys that I just listed can take huge steps. I mean, those guys were drafted with significant draft capital. Talking about Shamar Stewart, obviously this year, Miles Murphy last year, Dax Hill the year before that, and then second-round picks, Cam Taylor-Britt, DJ Turner, even some of the safeties are some pretty good players. Obviously spent some good money on Geno Stone, Jordan Battle in the 3rd round. So there's a lot of maybe not free agency assets and money spent on that defense, but a lot of draft capital spent on that defense at premium spots. So I'm really, really optimistic, more so in that than anything else, in them taking a step on that side of the ball. As it comes to the run game, I think that's more just if you ask them to, they will. I have all the faith in the world in Chase Brown. I just don't necessarily know if he's going to get more than 30 to 40% of the carries in terms of running the ball as a whole this offense. That's including Zach Moss, Taj Brooks, and Samaje Perine. So I don't know that the run game is going to take a big step. I hope it does. I hope a more balanced offense leads to much more wins and a lot lower heart rates throughout the season. But it's not something I would necessarily expect with Dan Pitcher, Joe Burrow, and Zach Taylor.
The two teams that passed more than any other teams in football last year, obviously the Bengals and the Cleveland Browns, and all the teams that, like, I think it was a graphic we shared about a month ago. It was a list of the top 5 teams who led football in the amount of passing plays that they had, the percentage of passing plays that they called in the season. And all those teams were not playoff teams. And the teams that had 50% or less of passing plays called, they were all Super Bowl contenders or legitimate playoff contenders. So it's wild to say that you need less of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Maybe it's not saying that you need less of them. It's just you need more of other position groups to step up to help balance it out. Because Joe Burrow, I heard a quote, him, being a elite everyone, just drooling over his comments. I mean, Joe Burrow, with the season he had last year, he's still saying he needs to be better. When he said he needs to be better and they would have won more games last year, it's because he doesn't want to say, yeah, our defense sucked and they cost us a lot of games and Evan McPherson needs to get his head out of his ass. Like, that's what Joe Burrow probably really wanted to say. But right. He took it on his shoulders, and that's what leaders do, right? But, like, the fact that they have that ability, there's not a lot of teams out there. I mean, if you tell me that a team is going to struggle running the football, that their special teams is going to be horrible, and that the defense can't stop anybody, I'm going to show you a team that's picking top 3 in the NFL draft, and that team won 9 games last year because they leaned into their strength, which was the offense. So right. For me, of the weaknesses for the team of which one needs or which one do they need to step up the most, obviously defense. But you said what I was going to say too. Special teams. They won 9 games last year with that horrible defense. They won 9 games last year with the run game that wasn't very good. They won 9 games last year, passing 66% of the time, more than any other team in football. They left 3 wins on the table just from Evan McPherson kicks. You beat the Chargers, right? You beat the Ravens twice, right? Like, and I'm probably missing games. I'm sure there's other games that they lost because
You don't need any more.
That. You don't. 12 games wins that division,
Right.
and that's a big deal. 12 wins. We're looking at the Bengals in a completely different light.
We're not just talking about in the playoffs. We're talking about the AFC playoffs going through Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That's why whenever you boil it down last season with how frustrating it was and how far this roster seems at points, you have Joe Burrow at quarterback. You got a chance, and you're going to be squarely in the middle of it. You just ran down some of those stats there, how the Bengals are such a drastic outlier, honestly, in what they do and how it's been able to work if you consider what's the Joe Burrow era working, which I certainly do in Cincinnati. Something that's been going around Twitter over the last few days is Super Bowl offensive lines, right? And the only Super Bowl offensive lines over the last 9 years, going back to 2016 when New England won it, the only Super Bowl offensive line that won without it being top 10 is Patrick Mahomes. In 2019 and 2023, he had the 12th and 13th ranked offensive line. In 2021, the Bengals were one play away from winning the Super Bowl. Do you know what Joe Burrow's offensive line ranked that year? 51st. Joe Burrow's offensive line ranked 51st that year. That is unbelievable. And the fact that he was one play away from that shows you just how much of an outlier he is, this offense is, these star players are, that you can give yourself a chance when no one else does. Zach Taylor has the highest playoff winning percentage in the AFC. Give him a chance to get there and see what happens.
I saw that he has the highest. Did you say in the AFC or as a whole? I thought the graphic I came across.
Is it the whole? I know it's the AFC. I didn't want to speak out of turn. I thought it was still McVay.
I think it's. Oh, is it? Well,
it used to be. It might not be after the loss last year.
Well, when Taylor's in, they win. When Taylor's in, they're in the AFC Championship game.
Correct.
I mean, there's no. I don't know. It's strange, but
the Taylor thing I find the funniest, and it was really brought up a lot around the comments on that post. People are so anti Zach Taylor in this city, but they're also so anti the Bengals front office and organizational structure. So if Zach Taylor was able to lead Joe Burrow and its offense to a Super Bowl back-to-back AFC championships with this organization, do we think Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow could win a Super Bowl for one of the other 31? I certainly do. So why would we be so quick to run him out of town? I mean, I'm probably a bigger Zach Taylor guy than most, but anytime I get something to argue for him, I certainly will.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've never once said that Zach Taylor is a top 5 coach in the National Football League, but if he was the head coach of a team I like, and obviously I'm a Bengals fan now, I wouldn't be trying to push him out the door either. I know there's some play calling, there's some scheme things throughout the season that drive people nuts. I know we debated just the timing of which he opted to send McPherson out there, in games like against the Ravens and some of these others. I know when Elliott was here, we had those debates, but I like Zach Taylor. One thing we had on the rundown for today was, obviously yesterday talking about the struggles with, not struggles, but the rankings for Pro Football Focus, 18th best roster in football. You have the 18th best roster in football. We look at this team as a Super Bowl contender, but with all the deficiencies, with all the question marks, we know this team's good enough. They're a 500 team with all those deficiencies. They're a playoff contender. You missed the playoffs by one game. You're a playoff contender, but are you a Super Bowl contender? And what I want to avoid is, well, anytime you have Joe Burrow, yes, you're automatically a Super Bowl contender. Is this roster a legitimate Super Bowl contender as constructed with all the deficiencies and question marks as we sit here in June?
I think the biggest question, to answer your question with a question, is are you confident that the offensive line is going to improve this year? Because if the offensive line improves this year, I think the answer is yes, as long as we're operating under the assumption that Trey Hendrickson's on this defense. Because if this offense is what it was last year, and Joe Burrow has a little bit better than the worst 2 guards in the entire league, and Chase Brown is the running back for the entirety of the season, and we saw what he was able to do when he took over about week 4, week 5 last year, I think basically every facet of that offense improves, and if T. Higgins is going to plan on being healthy this year, that'll certainly help a lot. Defensively, I don't know what you can really bank on there, except for maybe you could say Al Golden in, Lou Anarumo out. That'll raise the floor of the young guys. I don't know. That might be a reach. But I don't think there's anything you can say is going to get worse. I think any statistic you could possibly find would tell you Evan McPherson's going to get better or at least closer to what he was in the past. I'd be hard-pressed to find kickers that just fell off the face of the earth after having one of the best runs we've ever seen in the NFL. So if the special teams is expected to improve, the offensive line is expected to improve. I don't know what you guys believe in Jermaine Burton, but I certainly do, which raises the floor of the weapons on the offense. And this team was 1 win away from making the playoffs last year. yeah, I think they are a Super Bowl contender. I don't know if they're going to win the division, but I think if they get in the playoffs with 10 wins as a wild card team, 12 wins as a wild card team, I mean, I think this division could get up there in the win total for the wins for the team that wins it this year in the AFC North with the Baltimore Ravens and the schedule that they have in front of them. But if the Bengals get in the playoffs, I absolutely think they're a Super Bowl contender. I truly believe that.
Yeah, it's everything. The Bengals just don't make any sense statistically. Like that's they're an outlier pretty much in every thought process of how you evaluate what a Super Bowl contender is, because by perception, by how football works, by how the NFL works, by how roster makeup works around the NFL, if any other team, and let's put it this way, if I'm asking you about if the Buffalo Bills had the same exact issues as the Cincinnati Bengals, and I said, man, the Buffalo Bills, their offensive line is shaky. They can't run the football. Their defense is average at best on a good day, and their special teams is horrible. I would say there's no chance in hell they're a Super Bowl contender. Hell, last year we knew their defense was good coming in, but they had lost Stephon Diggs. They didn't replace Stephon Diggs. And we knew their run game would be solid. We didn't know it would be that good, but no one was saying Buffalo's winning the Super Bowl last year. People were wondering if they were good enough to win the division last year heading in, and then all of a sudden, the Buffalo Bills were way better than most people had anticipated. Bottom line is, anyone with the Bengals deficiencies out there would look at that and say, no, they're not a Super Bowl contender. So I think a lot of people would say no. I want to say no. But I also know last year we were sitting there at the end of the season, and I didn't want to agree with you guys, but I did agree. Don't let them get in. Don't let Joe Burrow get in the playoffs. Don't let the Bengals get in the playoffs. Josh Allen it doesn't matter if he could torch that defense of the Bengals. They don't want to face Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. And I think that's the same for anyone as we sit here even right now. They're an outlier. They don't make sense. They should not be as good as what they have been, and they haven't been very good. That's the thing. But they win. And that's all that matters. And they win enough games. This isn't the college football playoff where style points and all that stuff matter, because, my God, outside of the fun games where they put up a ton of points, there was no style points because it was ugly football last year and special teams and defense and offensive line and all of that. But they got it done. They just missed the playoffs. I don't know what the case will be this season.
Got to win one against Baltimore. And I think that's going to be a big thing all year, is that obviously you got the short end of the stick having to go back there in prime time. But losing both of those against Baltimore last year in the most heartbreaking fashion. Honestly, the Bengals lost to every single contender they played last year, except for the Denver Broncos, if you consider them a contender. But that's just a brutal, brutal place to be. You have to stack some wins against these good teams. You have to go out and you got to beat the Ravens. And I think it all starts, and obviously it starts, but I think it all starts for Bengals fans week 1 against Cleveland, and we're going to see how much this team has changed from last year. Because this team came out flat, and honestly, I don't think anyone wanted to admit it, but we could have seen it coming, how last season went against the Patriots last year. We were blinded by the slow starts the year before that we've been able to overcome, but we were asking for something that no one's ever done before to happen twice to us. So, yeah, the Bengals have to come out and start hot. They got the Browns week 1. They got the Jaguars week 2. You got to win both those games. You got to start 2-0, and you got to get the ball rolling after an offseason that has been a lot louder than we wanted it to be. After we extended Jamar and T, I think we said on this show that we're going to get a quiet offseason. We're going to be able to coast through and practice and focus on football and not a lot of distractions. And, boy, we couldn't have been more wrong. Jamar Stewart not practicing, holding out for the rookie contract, and Trey Hendrickson obviously as loud as possible. So it's been pretty rough through this offseason after you thought you got that taken care of with the wide receivers. But hopefully you can turn it around relatively soon, get a few months under your belt to focus in on the Browns and on week 1 and start this season hotter than we've started the last few.
I took the side of the front office for the Hendrickson handling. We're still are people changing their mind on Jamar Stewart? Yesterday he was out there. Like, again, this is what irks some fans with him yesterday. I think a lot of people have the mindset of, all right, rookie, who are you to bully the front office? Who are you? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing when Jamar Chase does it. Hell, it's one thing when Trey Hendrickson does it, who's the NFL sack leader, right? But, like, Jamar Stewart is in the right when you really get into the optics of it all. I mean, again, he was picked earlier than the last 2 first-round draft picks for the Bengals, and they had more guarantees in their contract than what they're offering him. He just wants it to be consistent with what the Bengals have done. Yes, the rest of the league, but what they have done. It's not like he's asking them to do something that they've never done before. They've done this. They're just choosing not to. Have you changed your mind at all? Are you still pro Jamar Stewart and how he's handling this right now in OTAs?
No, he needs to practice. I mean, there's plenty of first-round picks that haven't signed contracts yet, and they're practicing. You can negotiate your contract and practice, or at least stretch. You don't have to stand out there and make it all about you. No, I'm not Team Shamar Stewart at all. I think this is absolutely ridiculous that he's not practicing. I have no problem with the negotiations. I have no problem with what he's negotiating for. But the 4th overall pick in this last draft, Will Campbell, signed his contract last night. He's been practicing for 3 weeks in New England. This isn't happening anywhere else, and there are plenty of first-round picks that are still unsigned. So, yeah, I have a pretty big issue with Shamar Stewart not practicing. I don't think that he's anywhere near the player that deserves to hold out while negotiating his contract. Negotiate. Get what you need done. And if you get through OTAs and you're nearing week 1 and they still haven't given you what you want, yeah, let's have that conversation. But I see a lot of people with Shamar Stewart say, well, these Bengals rookies, Miles Murphy, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, didn't sign their contract till X. A lot of those fall in July or at least late June. But most of those guys, if not all of those guys, were practicing, and all of them were practicing by now. So if it's this big of an issue with the contract, then I think there's some real big issues with Shamar Stewart and his camp. Because this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen other places.
Were you on his side at first, though?
I'm on his side for the
his
negotiations.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm still on his side for the negotiations. He is right. He deserves what he is asking for. He just needs to practice while he's negotiating, which I feel like is not a ton to ask for a rookie that had 0 production in college.
Jake, can you imagine, and Pearl, like, think about the NFL. Like, obviously, none of us have played in the NFL, but, can you imagine, though, getting drafted by a team and as a rookie, you're like nervous as it is. You're trying to prove yourself to a roster that has veterans on it. And I know that NFL players say, well, it's a business. They understand the business side of it. A lot of fans, we don't really, we think with our emotions and our hearts and not, look at it from a business perspective. Although I feel like we've talked a lot about the business side to this.
Yeah.
How crazy is it though? Like, I don't know if I could physically do that where I'm just going to go show up and stand around and just not do anything. And it's like, he's not uncomfortable. He's not worried about getting side eyes from any of his teammates.
And that's part of where my problem comes in.
Yeah.
He should be.
It's like, yeah, that takes some guts, man. Like that takes something, man. Like to show up to practice OTAs where, by the way, it's all voluntary. And you have your veterans upon veterans showing up, voluntarily showing up to help get better themselves and get the team better. And yet here you are as a rookie where you need all the reps you can get before training camp. And you're just not just showing up. That's great, but you're just standing there. The line yesterday that Jay Morrison posted, they're all standing in line stretching. He's standing in line with his teammates. They're all bending over stretching, and he's just standing there just watching everyone. That's awkward. I don't know how you could do that and it not be uncomfortable for him. It's kind of weird to me.
Right, and that's part of where my concern comes in is why doesn't he care? Why doesn't he care that this is a storyline? Why doesn't he care that the other people on the team are looking at him and he's not practicing? Why doesn't he care that the Bengals are trying to be a contender this year and they need him to be a pretty key piece of this defense and he doesn't want to learn the plays or get out there and get the blood flowing a little bit? I really don't get it.
Maybe he doubts himself. The thinking I had, too, was, you said, people bring up that Jamar T and others, they didn't have their contracts signed at this point, but they were still out there. That's because those guys had so much confidence in themselves that, hey, we know we're going to be great. We're going to get our money. We're going to get ours. Like, I feel like there's doubt within his head whether he's going to be a very good NFL player. So if this might be the only contract that he really technically gets to negotiate at this type of level, I don't know. But it is weird that he's just not worried about what his teammates think of him. And who knows? Maybe there's veteran players that have come up to him and advised him to do this too. Yeah. Hey, man, don't budge with this front office. This front office will screw you over if you're not careful. You better put them in their place early. I don't know. But, Pearl, would that be hard for you to show up to a practice, even though there's the business side to it? Would that be hard for you to just show up to a practice, stand there, and just watch everyone else do all the work?
Yeah, because, like, what does that tell people about you? I mean, you're trying to make your mark on the team and also form some sort of like chemistry with everybody else, and this is your first impressions that you're giving people. I don't know. That wouldn't sit well with me. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, and here's what this is going to set up too. If he performs great this year, great. We'll forget about this. Like, by the time the season gets here, we'll forget about this sit out. We'll forget about all of it. But, man, if we get to week 1, 2, 3, and 4, and he's just not producing and he's not working out, this is going to look a lot worse. So you better be good. You better go out there and perform when you finally do get out there, because I think a lot of people are going to remember this, and then all of a sudden people will start turning on him at that point. A lot of fans and media perception and all that stuff. So
yeah, at least he was widely liked on draft night.
Yeah, it's not.
This will make it real easy for him.
All right, off the bench, Justin, Pearl, and Jacob left with you here, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Reds will play the Brewers in Game 3 coming up at 12:40. For those who listen on radio, the pregame coverage begins at 12:10. But Andrew Abbott going to be on the mound. We'll talk a little bit of Reds when we come back. But there was more of Charlie Goldsmith. Kind of the Wade Miley story is interesting. Also, Chatterbox Reds, there was a segment that was out. It's clipped and it's on Chatterbox socials. It was Trace and Kirby talking about if Hunter Greene goes on the IL, which we now know he is, that Chase Burns needs to be the one that replaces him. That's what they were discussing last night. Obviously, Wade Miley is the individual that's replacing Hunter Greene in the rotation now that he's been announced to go to the 15-day IL. So we'll talk about that when we come back. We're off the bench next. The Wade Miley stuff is interesting. Hunter Greene goes on the 15-day IL. Probably going to be longer. Let's just be real. Again, he suffered I don't even know if it's called a setback, but he re-aggravated the groin injury, the same groin injury that put him on the 15-day IL earlier in the month or last month. He was out for a few weeks, came back right in time for that Cubs series at Great American Ballpark, and it lined up perfectly because that there was some series leading up that the Reds could have used and catapulted for some momentum, and then have Hunter Greene on the mound against the Cubs. That was their first real divisional test, and we know how those have gone. Let's just be clear. But Hunter Greene back on the IL, and then you also look at the news that Rhett Lauder is on the 60-day IL. Rhett Lauder not part of this main roster, not part of the rotation, but I always viewed Rhett Lauder as an emergency insurance piece, one of those great depth pieces that the Reds have over in AAA. You know, if anything happens to one of these major starters, excuse me, in the rotation, you have Rhett Lauder over there who's a proven 1 month, but a proven starter that had success with the Reds in the rotation last year. But so now we see that star player in the rotation out. There is no Rhett Lauder in the minors to call up, and now there's just not a comfortable solution. Last night, Chatterbox Reds, we don't have the soundbite for you at the moment, but Trace and Kirby both discussed the idea of, man, if Hunter Greene does go on the IL, probably should consider a Chase Burns call-up. I mean, he has just been rowing through the minor leagues. I mean, he's a rookie. He's been absolutely dominant during his minor league stint, and we talked about that at length yesterday. And it's funny how quickly things change, because yesterday I'm like, what do I want him to be called up? Yeah, at some point, but if there's no room for him, that's a good thing, because that means everyone's healthy. If there's not a role for him on this roster right now, that's a good thing. And then all of a sudden, they lose a depth piece in Rhett Lauder in AAA Louisville. Now Hunter Greene's going to be on the IL probably for quite some time. Who knows? Maybe. But the bottom line is Wade Miley also available in the system. Remember, the Reds signed him to a minor league contract before the season began. missed pretty much all of last season with that injury, and rehabbed, came back, and of course is now ready to go. The problem was there was no room for Wade Miley on this roster. There really wasn't a role for him, and it wasn't there wasn't any drama between him and the front office. He did request a trade just because there wasn't a spot open. But Wade Miley, because he was patient and the Reds were patient, a spot opens up. And Pearl, do you still have that report up? I'll have you cover that if you don't mind, and have that ready to go. But Wade Miley will have a role with this team, and sounds like he could be available today, correct?
Yeah, it says that Miley didn't want to mess up the Reds' rotation since they've been pitching well, and he was open to returning in the Reds' bullpen. And it sounds like that is the plan going forward. Miley will be available in the bullpen today. Yeah, and it says if Miley doesn't pitch out of the bullpen today, he will pitch the first game in Cleveland.
As a starting, correct?
Yes. Right. I mean, that's what I'm inferring from this.
Yeah, so my guess,
is they don't want to use him. Oh, sorry, go.
He's either bullpen today if they absolutely have to, and then he'll assume that spot in the rotation would be my guess. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense to me why he would opt out in the first place if he was fine to just go to the bullpen full time, right?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a head scratcher that, like, the entire time I thought he absolutely didn't want bullpen.
Had to start, yeah.
Yeah, because he was looking for other teams for a starting position, but the fact that, I don't know, he probably didn't get any offers that he really wanted.
So now or at least not starting offers.
Yeah, so now he's like, okay, I guess I got to compromise here.
No, and we saw when Hunter Greene was out last time when Chase Petty didn't play great, and I assume if Wade Miley gets used today, we'd see the same thing in Cleveland. It would be a bullpen game, and those bullpen games have worked pretty well for the Reds so far this year, so that wouldn't be the worst thing if we do have to use Wade Miley today. We've talked about how much of a must-win this feels like, probably as much of a must-win a mid-60s game in a season where you're outside of the wild card 10 games can mean. But it means a lot. And if you got to use Wade Miley to try to win it today, then use Wade Miley to try to win it today and worry about the rest down the road. But if Wade Miley does start in Cleveland, last time Wade Miley started in Cleveland for the Reds, he threw a no-hitter. So maybe we get lucky.
Well, don't talk about it. Then.
Well, you got to talk about it.
I know, but you're already putting it out there.
If he gets through one inning in Cleveland, I'll tweet it. I'll tweet it every inning.
Didn't he have like a Hulk tattoo?
The Hulk, yeah.
But we'll keep an eye on how they use him today. The other thing is, like, Wade Miley, there's a spot for him, and theoretically, he could be the replacement for. You're not replacing Hunter Greene, but be a guy in the rotation now. This could be one of those where they throw him out there for a few starts and dangle him out there at the trade deadline. They have enough young pieces in the system that they could continue to throw out there. They could continue going the opener route, as you talked about, Jake. But it will be interesting to see kind of what the plan is for him. Do we see Wade Miley today? Do we see Wade Miley against the Brewers?
I would say not. I would guess not.
I
because
guess
you feel like they want.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say because you think they want him as a starter for Cleveland, or
probably, yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Right.
Like I just feel like it's worst case scenario if he pitches today.
Yeah, for sure.
Pearl, what were you going to say?
Maybe it's a different story if.
Oh no, I was just agreeing. Yeah, I would think this is their last option if they're blowing bullpen and Abbott, which I don't think that'll happen.
Right.
If Abbott doesn't go very far, considering bullpen was worked yesterday because Greene didn't go far. As long as that doesn't happen, I definitely see their plan for him to start.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to call him up here and then have him be a bullpen guy when you clearly have a need in the starting rotation at this point. Right. I totally get it if everyone's healthy, you don't want to mess with that, like he said, like Pearl said, but you don't have that option anymore. And maybe it's a different story if Red Lauder's healthy, and maybe it's a different story if Chase Burns has started a game in AAA.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a different story if a lot of these things had gone a different way this season, but I think Wade Miley kind of has to start for this team, based on what we've seen so far this year from the other guys that could fill that role. In his last few starts, Andrew Abbott has went 7 innings, 5 2/3, 5 innings, 6 innings, 5 innings, and 4 innings back at the beginning of May. So he's at least getting 5, closer to 6 over the last few starts. If he can get that, I would be pretty shocked if we saw Wade Miley. 4-inning game, get you some Wade Miley.
Andrew Abbott on the mound today. Again, game 3 against the Brewers. We're wrapping up the portion of the show here with our predictions. By the way, yesterday I got the prediction right. I forgot 4-2. I did.
Kenner.
I went back and checked the audio towards the end. I'm like, I did say 4-2. We do need to keep how many predictions we get right moving forward.
Elliot got 2 1-0s.
That's cheating.
Yeah, it's not our fault the Reds stink.
Yeah. So that's my second one that I got correct. But either way, so Andrew Abbott on the mound today. The Reds just tweeted this out a little bit ago. He didn't get the pitcher of the month, but I mean he had an ERA under 1, 33 strikeouts in the month of May and 6 starts, 3 wins. He went 32, just over 32 innings, 3 wins and 6 starts with an ERA under 1, 33 strikeouts. I mean, look, we're number-wise. I mean, Hunter Greene's the ace. There's no doubt about it, but his numbers rival Hunter Greene. He's not rivaling Hunter Greene to be the ace, but his numbers do. Andrew Abbott, the Reds are not just fine without Hunter Greene, but they have some dogs in this rotation, and he's one of them. I'm excited to see what he does today because the Reds need a big pitching performance. But they also need to have the bats show up, too, and I think that's important.
No, it certainly is, and I don't think you can overstate what Andrew Abbott's done for this team this year. He's a guy that gets just kind of shoved down the list, and I'm certainly a culprit of it too. You got Hunter Greene and what he's able to do, and then Nick Lodolo, obviously the hype he had coming up. Those are the top 2 guys in almost everyone's eyes in Reds Nation, and Andrew Abbott just quietly for about the first 4 or 5 months of every year is just a little bit better. And at some point, we're going to have to give him that recognition that he belongs in that group, and maybe we should have a conversation about who the legitimate number 2 on this team is. I think it is Andrew Abbott at this point, or at least it is through the first few months of every season, and he's been absolutely incredible. You got to feel as confident about him on the mound as you do about Hunter Greene at this point, and that's certainly no slight to Greene. That's bumping Abbott up quite a bit in my mind. So he's been incredible this year, and hopefully we can continue to be as lucky as we've been with our young pitchers coming up and having success with these next few guys, the Wright Louders, the Chase Burns of the world, as we have been with the Abbotts, the Lodolos, and the Hunter Greenes. We haven't had all the success with the bat prospects, but we've hit it out of the park with the pitching prospects. So hopefully that can continue to be the theme.
Lineup again for today: Friedl, Espinal, De La Cruz, Stevenson, Steer, Joe, and then Trevino, Benson, and McLean. I will say this about McLean: had a big hit last night. That was good to see.
Big catch too.
And a big catch, yes. But what I got annoyed with was not him. Social media doing its thing and having to mock everybody that has been critical of Matt McLean over the last 2 months as if it hasn't been justified. By the way, if he hits a grand slam today, I don't give a rip. That doesn't erase the fact that he's been butt cheeks for the last 2 months.
He's still batting 176.
Yeah,
right.
One at bat doesn't fix it.
Right.
Well, why is it people's initial instinct the second something like that happens is to mock those who were critical? Oh man, I see all the Matt McLean critics were very silent tonight. Shut up. Like, what are we talking about?
We'll be back tomorrow.
People just want to complain and run their mouths. It's fine.
Correct. When you don't have a team that's good that you can rally behind, you got to just individual takes and root for those. It's tough, but we all do it.
All right. Pearl prediction on the way out. Reds, Brewers. What do you predict?
4-1.
Ooh, 4-1.
4-1 Reds.
Wow. I'm going to go 5-3 Brewers.
5-3 Brewers. There you go. I love it. You're decked out in all reds.
What is this? That's messed up.
You have no faith. No
you
faith.
literally witnessed what happened yesterday, and you were saying how great the momentum is. Oh my god!
And it's a rubber match at noon against the Brewers.
Okay, but you predicted for them to score in the 7th inning.
I
bold
did.
Take.
I did.
And you were right. So
I did.
What gives? Where's the faith?
I did. Nigga, not here today.
I'll go 3-2 Reds. 3-2 Reds.
Okay.
No.
I like it.
Nonetheless, but all right. Well,
that's
that
our
does wrap it
favorite,
up.
man.
That's that does wrap it up for us. I have Buyer's show coming up, so I gotta pop off here. But that does wrap it up. Reed's in tomorrow, and then we wrap up the week on Friday. I think Elliot's back on Friday as well. But T's and P's to Elliot, who's just missing the show and out on the golf course every day. I just I feel bad for him. Poor guy getting paid to golf.
Life.
I mean, I man. But anyways, that wraps it up. Until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton.